What's going on, Warriors fans? Today we've got a massive update that could completely change the direction of Golden State's season because according to league insiders, Joe Lacob himself may have just leaked the Warriors' real trade deadline plan, and at the same time, the front office is quietly preparing a key roster move that nobody saw coming. Now before you click away, trust me, this isn't just another recycled rumor. This is the kind of behind-the-scenes NBA intel that only starts leaking when a franchise is at a crossroads. And right now, the Golden State Warriors are standing right in the middle of it. Let's talk about what Joe Lacob is really signaling, why this trade deadline feels different, and which roster move could shock the entire league. Because if this plan goes through, the Warriors won't just be buyers, they could be about to redefine their entire future. Let's start with Joe Lacob because everything begins with him. Over the past few weeks, Lacob's public comments have sounded different. Not desperate. Not panicked. But very intentional. Very calculated. According to multiple insiders around the league, Lacob has been more involved than usual in internal basketball discussions, and that alone is raising eyebrows. Normally, Lacob lets the front office handle the noise. But this time? Sources say he's pushing one clear message behind closed doors: the Warriors are not done chasing championships with Stephen Curry. And that message matters. Because when an owner sends that kind of signal, it tells executives, agents, and rival teams one thing: Golden State is willing to make uncomfortable decisions. The Warriors know the clock is ticking. Stephen Curry isn't just the face of the franchise, he's still playing at an elite, MVP-level pace. Night after night, he's carrying the offense, spacing the floor, and keeping Golden State competitive even when the roster around him struggles to find consistency. And that's the problem. The Warriors aren't bad, but they're not complete. They're too good to tank, too inconsistent to trust, and too experienced to sit still. That's why insiders say Lacob has green-lit aggressive deadline flexibility. Not reckless, not desperate, but aggressive. Translation? The Warriors are willing to move contracts, young assets, and even long-time rotation players if it means upgrading the roster around Curry right now. And this is where things get very interesting. According to league chatter, the Warriors are focused on one thing above all else at the deadline: reliability. They want players who can be trusted in playoff moments. Players who don't disappear under pressure. Players who can defend, make smart reads, and knock down shots when Steph draws double teams. That alone tells us something huge. Golden State is no longer prioritizing potential. They're prioritizing certainty. Which brings us to the most sensitive part of this entire situation: the roster decisions. Because if the Warriors are making a key roster move, that means someone is either losing minutes, losing their role, or losing their place on the team entirely. Insiders say the front office has been evaluating the rotation very closely over the last stretch of games. Not just box scores, but body language, decision-making, defensive effort, and how players respond when games get tight. And the conclusion they're reaching? Some players fit the system. Some don't fit the moment. That's a tough reality, but it's the truth. Golden State's championship DNA has always been about trust. Steve Kerr trusts players who move the ball, defend multiple positions, and stay mentally locked in. When that trust breaks down, roles change fast. According to NBA insiders, the Warriors are exploring a roster adjustment that could involve reshuffling minutes immediately, even before the trade deadline hits. This isn't just about adding a player. It's about sending a message. A message that says nobody's role is guaranteed anymore. And that includes young players and veterans. Now let's talk about why this trade deadline feels different from previous years. In the past, Golden State was either all in or completely quiet. This year? They're somewhere in between. They're listening. They're calling teams. They're evaluating every scenario from small upgrades to major swings. Insiders say Lacob is open to short-term sacrifices if it means maximizing Curry's window. That's huge, because it suggests Golden State is willing to accept financial pain and roster disruption. And remember, when Lacob commits, he commits fully. But here's the twist. The Warriors aren't just looking for a big name. They're targeting players who fit very specific needs. Defense on the perimeter. Secondary playmaking. Reliable scoring without hijacking the offense. Veteran toughness. And yes, playoff experience matters more than ever. That's why some rival executives believe Golden State could surprise everyone by making a move that doesn't dominate headlines but wins games in April and May. Sometimes the best trades aren't flashy. They're functional. And that's exactly what this roster needs right now. Now let's talk about the internal pressure building around this team. Because Stephen Curry has been saying all the right things publicly, but insiders say the organization knows how badly he wants one more legitimate run. Not just a first-round exit. Not just competitive basketball. A real shot. And when your superstar is still delivering, the front office has a responsibility to respond. Joe Lacob understands that. That's why sources say he's given the green light for bold conversations. Not reckless, but bold. Which leads us back to the key roster move. Insiders suggest Golden State may be preparing to open up a roster spot or adjust contract structures to stay flexible. That could involve waiving a player, consolidating contracts, or shifting rotation roles to evaluate trade value. In other words, the Warriors are setting the chessboard. They want options. They want leverage. They want to be ready the moment the right opportunity appears. Because once the deadline hits, hesitation kills deals. And Golden State doesn't want to miss its moment. Here's what fans need to understand. This isn't panic mode. This is urgency. There's a difference. Panic leads to bad trades. Urgency leads to smart risk. And everything we're hearing suggests the Warriors are choosing urgency. Joe Lacob leaking this mindset intentionally or not is a signal to the league. Golden State is open for business. And when the Warriors go shopping, teams listen. Because everyone knows one thing: if you help Steph Curry, you immediately become a threat. So where does this leave the Warriors right now? At a turning point. Either they stay the course and hope internal growth fixes everything, or they make a move that redefines their identity for the rest of the season. And insiders believe Lacob already made his choice. He's choosing to fight. He's choosing to compete. He's choosing to give Curry help. Now the only question left is, how big will the move be? A small tweak? A rotation upgrade? Or something that completely shocks the league? One thing is clear. This trade deadline will not be quiet for Golden State. And whatever move they make, it will tell us everything about how much they believe in this core and how far they're willing to go to chase another banner. Warriors fans, buckle up. Because the next few weeks could change everything. If you want real-time updates, insider-style breakdowns, and no-filter Warriors news, make sure you're subscribed. Because when this roster move happens, you'll hear it here first.